Thanks everyone for joining us for this morning's webinar. I'm Alex Hattingh and I'm the Chief People Officer for Employment Hero. If you have any questions, please throw them into the Q&A box and we will get to them at the end. So thanks for joining me today. We're going to unpack the latest findings on talent movement and retention. So we're going to touch on what are employees' intentions for switching roles, the main reasons for job seeking, strategies for retention, and how do we win over job seekers in the really tough market that we're seeing today. And then we'll talk about boosting your employer brand, which is so important. I'd love to start by touching on how management philosophy has changed over the years. It took decades for us to go from the industrial corporation to hierarchical leadership, another couple of decades to get to collaborative management, and then again, decades to get to company as a network. We were then hit with a global pandemic, and we shifted in 1 year to a model of empathy, trust, resilience, and growth, where there is a real focus on learning, on wellness, and also the individual within your organization. So the Great Resignation. It's a huge topic at the moment. I'm sure you've all seen it in the media, and it's being talked about in every single country. And one of the top lines is, how do we turn the Great Resignation into the Great Retention? So here at Employment Hero, we decided to run our own insights study, and out of that, we have a lot of stats and research around talent movement and retention here in Australia. So what do we know? That we had better buckle up, because our research suggests that we're about to see a period of mass employee movement over the last 12 months. We surveyed 1,000 workers at the beginning of September about their plans for job movement. So it's a complete snapshot of the current talent sentiment, with essential insights for Australian small to medium businesses that I'll unpack with you today. So what are Australian employee intentions? Our research showed that 40% of Australian workers plan to look for a new role in the next 6 months, and 15% of your employees are currently already on the hunt for a new job. So we asked, do you plan on looking for a new role? 48% of Australian workers are planning on looking for a new role within the next 12 months, while 52% of Australian workers are not currently planning to look for a new role. And when we looked at and broke that down, only 15% of people are currently looking for a new role. However, another 13% plan to in the next 3 months, another 12% plan to in the next 6 months. So adding those numbers up is pretty significant. Within the next year, another 8%. Within the next 2 years, 10%. On the positive, we still have 42% of Australians who are not planning on looking for a new role. However, if you were only to be left with 42% of your employees, you would be in a lot of trouble. Let's dive into the at-risk groups. Our insight study found that younger employees were more likely to want to leave. Those employees aged between 18 and 24 were most likely to want to leave their jobs in the next year. 66% of them said that they would be looking in the next year. However, 64% of those aged between 25 and 34 and 56% between 34 and 44 were also planning to leave their job in the next 12 months. So not just look for a new job, they were planning on leaving their job. When we deep dive into management and senior executives, our report found that 55% of Australian managers and senior executives are intending to move in the next 12 months. Professional or non-manager employees were less likely. The state of Victoria, interestingly, are 14% more likely than other states to want to change roles within the next year. Victoria was the most severely impacted by COVID-19 restrictions. They had over 200 days spent in lockdown. So this could have had a real influence over the sense of discontent. Let's look at what our insights research showed about the main reasons for job seeking. When we look at this, the top 3 reasons that our Australian employees are looking to leave their roles are lack of career opportunities, no pay rise. We know that the economy has been hit and many businesses have been doing it tough. And the third was lack of appreciation or recognition. When we deep dive into the generational research results, those aged between 25 and 34 were 26% more likely to say that lack of career opportunities was the main reason that they would leave their job. Lack of appreciation or recognition was most common in the 45 to 54 age group, with 39% of people saying that lack of appreciation or recognition was their top reason for leaving their job. Let's talk about company and culture. Poor company culture was the 4th most common overall reason that people cited at 21%. Employees of larger businesses, so those with more than 200 employees, were 49% more likely to say that company and culture was the reason they would leave a job. And of government employees, would you believe 98% of them were more likely to state company and culture as being their top reason for leaving a job. So let's talk about retention strategies. All of these statistics show there's going to be a lot of talent movement. So how can we be strategic and proactive about putting some things in place for your employees that will help to retain them? So what can you do to keep your great people? A salary increase is at 47% when we asked people what initiatives would encourage you to stay in your current role. So if you have the budget for salary increases or promotions, get onto that and do it. Beyond money and promotion, a great culture of reward and recognition was said by 22% of respondents that would help them remain at their job. More training and development, 21%. So embrace a culture of learning. Train your managers to be better coaches. Consider micro-learning opportunities. There are great e-online courses, and a lot of them don't cost a thing. Think about a mentoring program. And our favourite is remote and flexible working options. 19% of respondents said that flexible work would help keep them at their job. And for those companies who are not going to be providing this, you will absolutely lose talent. All research is showing that. And I just really want to call out, a lot of employees are confusing lockdown with remote work because we all have been locked down, especially in Victoria. So make sure you're highlighting to your employees that lockdown is very different to the benefits of remote work. So spotlight on remote and flexible working. So we love to travel, and we've been starved of it over the past couple of years. So this could cause a massive rush of holiday leave requests, and it could also see your team trying to make up for that lost travel time by seeking international employment. Our research showed that 2 in 5 Australian workers would consider taking a job overseas, with the big motivator to travel. While it's not applicable for every role or industry, the remote working revolution could be significantly helpful. So we did a 2021 remote working report, and we found that 91% of Australians want to work remotely at least 1 day a week on a permanent basis. So this is going to help you retain those employees who might want to take a working holiday. And we have a great example of 2 employees who took a working holiday where they might have taken the Monday off to do some traveling and exploring and doing it on the weekend, and then working when they were in the particular locations like Byron Bay that they were in. They actually did a blog on LinkedIn about how a great experience it was to be able to travel and work at the same time. And it was a brand win because we got great responses on that LinkedIn in showing working for us, you can work remotely and travel and have a holiday and mix the two. Let's talk about the importance of regular check-ins as it pertains to being a retention strategy. According to a Gallup research study, regularly scheduled meetings with a manager are critical to your employees' engagement. So only 15% of employees who work for a manager who does not meet with them regularly are engaged. Now, managers who do meet regularly with their employees tripled the level of engagement of their employees. So what are one-on-ones for those who haven't heard of them? It's a scheduled meeting in both your calendar and your mental map for open-ended conversations between your employee and you. It's not a status report. It's not a tactical meeting. It's a place for coaching, mentorship, giving context, or even allowing your employee to vent. And when you look at it being about coaching, that goes back to career development being one of the top 3 reasons someone is looking to leave a job in Australia. So a one-on-one does go way beyond an open door policy and dedicates time on a regular basis and a regular cadence for you to meet with your teammates. So how do you have effective one-on-ones in this new remote world of work, especially during lockdown? You make sure you do it over video, but also mix it up every now and then. You might say, hey, Alex, why don't we jump on our mobile phones and go for a walk in our respective areas and have our one-on-one not feel so formal? It's really important that you begin your one-on-one with open-ended questions. It's about your employee, not you. This is their time. Ask them how they're feeling, especially as we are dealing with lockdown and coming out of lockdown. Ask them what's on their mind. Again, it's an open-ended question. Where are there roadblocks or barriers, and how can you help? Now, the number one thing is to listen. It's so important to make sure your employee feels heard, safe, and empowered. Next up, as a manager, you need to facilitate solutions, not give them, if that makes sense, because you want your employee to own the solution. So in helping them coach them through finding a solution, they will take ownership for it. So how can you mentor them to be successful? How can you unblock them to do their best work? And that might be unblocking a barrier. So start off by confirming the points that you've heard. Did you interpret them correctly, especially if you're doing one-on-ones over video? Also think about disclosing your own weaknesses. Be a little bit vulnerable. Tell your employee where you've stumbled in the past so that they do open up and say to you, I feel like I'm failing here, or I'm falling behind on this project and I need your help. It's great if you can say, oh, I have absolutely experienced that in my career. Whilst it feels like you're being vulnerable, you're being human and giving them a safe place for them to really open up to you. Always be on their side, especially if you're giving them blunt feedback about opportunities for growth. And respect them as a person, not just a performer of tasks. Now, this is so important because we need to show empathy with everything we've been through over the past 2 years. The best way to display this is to think of them as a peer during your one-on-one. So what if you're not a manager? How do you best leverage your one-on-one? Or if you're a manager, surely you have a manager. So know that it's time to express to your manager what's on your mind. You can also use it to brainstorm ideas and communicate your future goals. What do you want out of your career? So set aside some time prior to organise what you want to discuss and try and have a centralised document to do that. Now, are you feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, blocked, or are you super excited? Put a bit of thought into why you feel this way and think about some practical solutions. Remain really open to being vulnerable yourself and discussing what's really going on. For example, have you really been struggling with homeschooling? Are you sharing an apartment with your partner and you're both working from the dining room table? Disclose those things so that your manager understands the situation you're in. And put it in layman's terms, because you want to make sure that your manager interprets it correctly. We use a template through Employment Hero to help facilitate our one-on-ones, where we have pre-populated questions, and it means employees can go in during the week and take those notes as they come to their mind without having them in some random document somewhere or forgetting to bring something up. And we also make sure we include a career development question in that one-on-one template to make sure we're encouraging managers to have those discussions with their employees and to get them thinking. Let's talk about skip level one-on-ones, which are a great retention strategy moving forward as we see all of these statistics about the Great Resignation. So it's a way as a manager of a manager to check in on other team members in your team. It's a really great way to keep a pulse on things. You can find out how your managers are doing beyond what they tell you. You get feedback and insights to help your own managers improve. You get a pulse from what's going on in the front line. For example, if you're not talking to customers, by doing a skip level in the support team, for example, you get to hear what's really going on with your customers. It builds trust. You learn where there could be dysfunction, insufficient communication, or even confusion or tension within different parts of your company. You also demonstrate that as a leader, you genuinely value and care for everyone in your team, however, in a scalable way. You're making them feel heard and recognised as well. So it's a win-win all round. So how do you start your skip level one-on-ones? This is really important also because I'm sure we've all had people that we've onboarded virtually who we've never met in person. So doing a skip level over video for the first time might be quite nerve-wracking or awkward for your direct reports. So also it could be easy for your managers to feel undermined if they know you're having a one-on-one with one of their direct reports. So let them know about your positive intent and why you're doing it. Also, inform your skip level team members why you're doing this and ensure that they know that everyone in the team is going to have a skip level with you. They might be nervous that they've done something wrong. So let them know it's about building relationships with everyone in your team. Just set that expectation. Then think strategically about how you're going to manage this in a scalable way. There's only 24 hours in a day. If you've got a large team, you might only be able to do a skip level every 6 months or even annually. If you have a smaller team, I would recommend a cadence of quarterly skip level one-on-ones. So make the most of your skip level one-on-ones. Start with rapport, especially if you haven't met the person in person. Do you have common interests such as kids? Is there a city that you've both lived in the past? Everyone does appreciate time to be heard and feel listened to on a personal level. Now make sure you get feedback and ideas. You might catch an issue while in a skip level and perceive it as being expensive when really you can have a solution really quickly. You want to focus on retaining your teams. So getting feedback on their manager is a great way for you to learn how to help their manager improve and avoid costly turnover to your organization. Someone might feel, for example, that their manager isn't communicating enough. So then you have the ability to go back to that manager and give them that feedback. And get ideas for improvement. Your skip level team members have a different vantage point and they can provide valuable ideas on initiatives that you might not have even thought about. Again, that example of talking to someone in support who's actually talking to your customers on a daily basis and you're not, that's where you can gain really valuable insights. Helpful skip level questions. So you could ask, what's the best part about working with their manager? What's the hardest part about working with their manager? What do you wish your manager would do more of? What do you wish they would do less of? Can you tell me about a time you needed your manager's support to accomplish your goals and what happened there? Again, that's an open-ended question where you're going to get an honest response. When was the last time you had a conversation with your manager about your career? Again, this is really important because career development is in the top 3 reasons that people are looking to leave their jobs. Again, are you happy with your career progress? Why or why not? How does your manager handle questions when you ask for help? What is a recent situation you wish your manager handled differently? And if you were in charge of the team you work on, what's the one thing you would do differently and why? And these are really open-ended questions where you're not making judgment, allowing your skip level to be productive and honest. Now, I all know you know how important follow-up and action is. If you don't do it, your skip levels, they won't be interested in having another skip level. The best way to do this, as my recommendation, is to schedule half an hour after the skip level one-on-one of time to yourself to be note-taking and action planning straight away. So, did you get feedback on their manager and you need to put that into the one-on-one document for your one-on-one with that manager next time to give them that feedback? And determine the next steps. So what will they do? Do they have actions that they need to do? And you might shoot them a quick Slack. Alex, it was so great to catch up. Remember, your action item is to have a conversation with your manager about improving your team meetings and communication. What will you do? So make some action plans about how you're going to fix problems. Maybe you do need to share information more or be more transparent. And also, again, noting what you want to discuss with their manager. So again, you don't want your managers feeling nervous about skip level one-on-ones. You want them to know that they're super productive. And so give them feedback and be transparent about what you're hearing during skip level one-on-ones. Let's talk about reward and recognition. Again, appreciation was in the top 3 reasons that employees were looking to leave their jobs. And it was actually the 45 to 54 year age group that was saying this. So reward and recognition is the activity we engage in to acknowledge exceptional performance and encourage specific values or behaviours. Why reward and recognise? The deepest craving in human nature is to feel appreciated. According to a study, 52% of employees in Australia feel more productive at work when they receive praise and recognition. And according to a Gallup survey, employees are absolutely more engaged when they're recognised. So for employees who are not paid fairly and feel that they're not recognised, they're only 31% engaged. Now, if they are feeling that they're paid fairly and they're recognised, that increases to a whopping 91% of engagement. Would you believe that for every piece of criticism that we receive as an employee, constructive or not, we require 4 pieces of positive reinforcement to counteract that? So what's the difference between reward and recognition? Recognition is intangible, whereas rewards are tangible. For example, sending someone donuts to thank them for doing something. We make ours tangible by gifting what we call hero dollars to our employees to spend in our discount store. So how do you deliver effective reward and recognition? Well, first and foremost, it has to be earned. So try and associate it with your values and behaviours. People should know what they can do to be recognised. And ensure that behaviours can be recognised widely, preferably to the entire company. Your reward must also have personal value. So get to know what makes your people tick. Is it public recognition at an all hands? Or are they more introverted and shy, and so they would just like a handwritten card or note? Consider personal preferences. Choice is everything. Recognition has to be timely as well. So don't wait until the end of the quarter to recognize someone. Do it on a daily basis and get that cadence within your organization. And use a system that encourages spontaneity. So someone jumps on straight away and recognizes someone else in the company as soon as they've done something. And never confuse reward and recognition with remuneration. So priority has to be given to recognition as being a celebration. So preferably a reward that means something to an employee. Is it a gift card so they can go and spend money on something they like? Do you know that they love a bottle of wine and that's what you're going to send them? Money gets spent without being seen, and it's also transferable. So you don't want to be giving bonuses as a reward. So how do we approach reward and recognition at Employment Hero? First of all, would you believe that only 14% of businesses give their managers the tools they need to recognise their teams? So we do what we call shout outs on our company feed. And this is a shout out to anyone who's gone above and beyond. Here's an example where an entire team is being recognised for all of their work on a project. That gets pushed out as a notification to the entire company. Now, this is recognition, and so there's no monetary value attached to it. We link our reward and recognition to our values as well to make sure we enforce our values. So as a reward, we have values champions, where an employee is given their reward and recognised based on displaying one of our values. They do get a monetary reward in the name of hero dollars into their account to spend at our discount store. We also roll that up on an annual basis to have annual values champions that we send on a trip with our CEO, Ben Thompson, and that's really, really valued. We also go a step further at our weekly all hands and report on shout outs so that those who have really received recognition during that week feel extra appreciated. So here you'll see at the all hands, we called out Veronica, Amanda and Esther for receiving the most shout outs for that prior week. So another important topic. How do we win over job seekers while we're seeing the Great Resignation, yet we are seeing a really tight talent market out there and salaries are really increasing, and a lot of us small to medium businesses don't have the budget and funds that the large companies like Atlassian and Canva have to be throwing big salaries around for hard to find talent like product managers and engineers. So based on our report, 41% of Australian job seekers want a job that they enjoy, and 28% want remote and flexible working options. So you have to make sure you sing from the rooftop about providing these benefits. Taking a step back, the candidate experience has really changed during virtual and remote work. We used to do face-to-face interviewing. Now it's all virtual. Pre-COVID was all about location. Everyone was going into an office. Now we're location agnostic. Pre-COVID was all about culture fit. Now we're about values fit. So when you're focusing on the candidate experience, you have to be brand aware to be able to sell your culture. Interviews are an extension of your brand. So represent your brand. Make sure the look and feel of your interview align with the way your organisation engages with customers. Be really conscious to not detract from your brand. Negative interviews really become a detractor. So make sure you're respectful, you log in and show up on time, communicate frequently, and also have your recruiters ask for feedback on what could be improved. And also a bad interview can end up in a bad Glassdoor review, and candidates really do look at Glassdoor. Really importantly, be a storyteller. It's really easy to sell your culture through telling stories. So think about why you joined your organization. What drew you there? What's keeping you there? What do you find the most enjoyable about working at your company? Tell a story and live your values through the storytelling. It's really powerful for a candidate to hear those stories. Now, you need to prepare for interviews. You want them to have a positive experience as a candidate. You need to give them a good sense of the role, be prepared to talk about that. Again, though, a really good sense of the company. We saw in all of our insights research, people want a job that is meaningful to them. So talk about your values, your culture. How do you collaborate across teams? And who you are. And also be super transparent. A really good example is here at Employment Hero, we work really fast. So we're very transparent with our candidates that that's what we expect of people when they join the company. They need to be able to work in an ambiguous environment. And make sure you know what you're looking for in a candidate. That example is perfect. So if you're looking for someone who needs to be able to work in a fast-paced environment, have the right questions to be able to get examples of where they've worked before. Have a pre-interview checklist. So make sure you look at the resume and also review the other scorecard questions, because it's a really horrible experience as a candidate to be asked the same question across multiple interviews. It also shows that you haven't read the prior interview notes. Talk to your talent acquisition partner for any additional information and support, or maybe there's a red flag that you should be asking something about. Test your technology and also try to have a backup. We use Google Meets, but I always have my Zoom account on hold, so that quite often you might have technical difficulties. You're able to put in the Google chat, would Zoom work better for you? I shoot them a Zoom meeting number and then we jump on Zoom. Make sure your candidate has all the information they need prior to the interview. So we send lots of articles, we send demo videos, we send them everything they need to be prepared. And pick your space to do an interview. Try and pick somewhere quiet, so not in your bed, for example, but also be prepared if the candidate might have kids at home and other interruptions. And practice makes perfect. So pass these tips on to your hiring managers. Have a scorecard. So give your recruiter questions that you want them to ask that will give you insight to prepare for the interview. A really great tip is to block time in your hiring manager's calendars. This saves time and it makes the candidate experience really fantastic. There's nothing better than at the end of an interview, you know you want to set up a second interview and you're able to say to the candidate, fantastic, Julia, we'd love to move you on to the next stages. And then I can open up my hiring manager's calendar and say, he is available at 2 p.m. every day this week. What time works best for you? And then you can book it in straight away. Make sure you're reliable, show up on time, have a sensible background. Again, don't re-ask the same questions. Share your roles on LinkedIn, really important. And even go as so far as to ask your candidate to leave a review on Glassdoor, because candidates do read them. We get asked all the time about our Glassdoor reviews. How do you boost your employer brand in the tough market that we're hiring in at the moment? Let's start by talking about what an employer brand is. So your company's brand is how your organization looks to potential customers, clients, and investors. Now, the marketing team are the gatekeepers of it. Well, that means you have to work closely with them on your employer brand. The employer brand tells the world who you are as an employer, and it also speaks volumes to your reputation. It's the message you send to future and, importantly, current employees. So it's important both externally and internally. So why is it important? Because it really tells people why they want to join your business. So candidates quite often, more often than not, are interviewing with more than one business. And are they actually going to apply for your role? Well, if you have a strong employer brand, then yes, they will. They want to know about your culture, and it also solidifies the right way and the right motives for your business. Employer branding is also important because you also want to make sure you don't attract the wrong people. Going back to me talking about us needing people at Employment Hero that can work in a fast-paced environment. We don't want to attract people that aren't interested in working in a fast-paced environment or need a lot of processes. So part of our employer branding is that you have to want to work hard and play hard. And also a LinkedIn ultimate list of employer brand stats. If you have a really strong employer brand, you see a 28% reduction in employee turnover. Again, it's really important internally what your employer brand is. A 50% reduction in cost to hire and a 1 to 2x faster time to hire. So this shows how important it is to invest time in your employer brand. So what is your EVP proposition? It's balancing out your rewards and benefits that you can offer employees in return for their incredible performance. We previously looked at how important employer branding is for a business, and EVP goes hand in hand with this concept. So it's your external reputation, yes. However, it's also your internal offering. It speaks volumes to your current employees. It's the tangible things that will attract job candidates to apply and also to potentially choose your offer over a competing offer from another company. So what's included in an EVP? You want your financial incentives. So are you offering stock options, bonuses? Your employment benefits, health insurance, retirement, paid leave, gym memberships, sponsored holidays, and also the fun things that you might be doing in this virtual work environment. Career development. Remember, career development was one of the top 3 reasons Australian employees are looking to leave their current organisation. So make sure you really clearly state that career development is something you offer and that is of high value to you. Your work environment. This is even more important as we think about remote work. You're always going to have, especially we've seen, salespeople and young people want to go back into the office. They want to socialize. So it's important that flexible and remote work, that you're singing from the rooftops that you offer that, but also that you offer great ways for teams to get together. And that doesn't have to be in an office. It could be monthly or quarterly lunches where you get together. You can also get together in your areas, which we've done during lockdown for some employees to get together for parks once picnics opened up. And really importantly, your company culture and values, which again was a reason that Australians are looking to leave their current organisation. So talk about trust and collaboration, positive relationships between teams, communication, and how do you support your employees, and alignment of employees to both your company goals, values, and finally your purpose and mission. We saw that a high % of Australians are looking for a job that they're going to enjoy. That goes hand in hand with their job being meaningful. So make sure your purpose and vision is meaningful and that the candidate understands how their job will contribute to the overall mission or purpose of your organisation. So how do you start to develop your EVP if you're not sure? So there are a few things you should consider. Start by asking your employees what they think working at your company is so great. You could send out an anonymous survey to gain feedback. And why start from scratch when you already might be doing some amazing things that employees and candidates love? Take a look at your own Glassdoor reviews. What are your employees saying they love about the company? And importantly, what are they saying the cons are? What can you have a discussion with leadership about where you can improve your EVP because your employees are putting reviews on Glassdoors? And maybe you sponsor further learning or promote flexible working arrangements. It's also worth considering including questions in the survey that reveal what your business doesn't do so well and areas where current employees feel you could work on. Again, being transparent. Just like us saying to our candidates, we get feedback from our employees that we work super fast. So you need to be up for that challenge if you're going to join the organisation. Because if you're not transparent about the areas that might be challenging for employees, you're going to hire someone that's going to end up leaving. We use custom surveys at Employment Hero to be asking our employees what they love. We also constantly are reviewing our own Glassdoor reviews for both pros and cons of working at Employment Hero. So takeaway and next steps. Look, change is coming. Our insight report shows that. So we all need to embrace uncertainty. And while it sounds scary, big shifts in talent can often bring new energy and ideas to the business. So if someone resigns, I recommend that you firstly take a step back and reevaluate the job. Make sure your onboarding and offboarding process is well thought out. Although salary is important, we've seen through our insight reports that there are so many other factors that attract and retain your employees. Make sure you're partnering with managers and business leaders. Help them to understand the risk of slack leadership during this time. Communication is important. Career development is important. One-on-ones are important. Having fun virtual events is important. Don't underestimate the power of those skip level one-on-ones. And again, when a role opens, start by thinking about internal talent and promotions first. While someone might be a little bit short of being able to fulfill that role, we saw that career development was one of the top reasons for leaving a job. It's going to be so much easier and faster if you promote someone into an open position rather than going external and then backfilling them externally. It sends a really, really positive message to your employees and they feel rewarded and recognised and appreciated. So we will send out the deck, additional resources. I definitely recommend that you look at the employee movement and retention report. There are some great statistics in there. And if you're having trouble getting leadership on board, these are the type of statistics that will really help you get buy-in and investment in building out your employer value proposition, in getting your hiring managers to really focus on the candidate experience, as well as having managers making sure they're rewarding and recognizing and focusing on career development. We've also got a link to running effective one-on-ones and a good one-on-one meeting template that you can use with your employees that will help facilitate great discussions. So hopefully you've found that really useful. I'll move to the Q&A box now. So Kelly is asking, we are a manufacturing business and therefore employees must come into work. What are some of the strategies we could consider to be more flexible? Any ideas? Yeah, Kelly, that's a great question and one we've had quite a few times. So it's good to be open and transparent, and doing a survey with them might be a really good idea to ask them for their ideas on how you can make work more flexible. Is it offering more flexible shifts where someone might be able to come in the morning at 6 a.m. and finish at 3 or 4? There can be some really simple things that will make them feel like you're really offering that flexible work arrangement. The next one, what are rewards and recognition strategies can we implement in a not-for-profit industry? There are so many things. It's that consistent recognition that you can be getting throughout the organisation, where I showed you we do notifications through a tool. Handwritten cards are really fantastic. Shout outs at all hands or company get-togethers are really huge as well, and try to align them to your values. Also to customer testimonials if you're a not-for-profit. Is there something great that someone's done for a customer? Again, reinforcing the behaviours that you want to see and showing that appreciation. The next one, this is a recommendation for you, Kelly, not dissimilar to what I was saying. You could try a flexible roster or working hours. And again, ask your employees for their ideas. Christine Watson, helpful skip level one-on-one questions. Is this bordering on a 360-degree review? Not really. I mean, you're asking some of the same questions, Christine, but what it is doing is showing your team members that they're valued. It's giving them a chance to talk to a manager one up from them or even two up from them. And it's giving you two-way conversation. With a 360-degree review, it's generally a peer review done online, and you don't get that two-way conversation. And it's also quite often anonymous. So definitely worth doing the skip levels. Would ESS surveys be more confidential than a skip level? Absolutely. Doing 360 peer reviews that are anonymous, you're definitely going to get more feedback. However, a skip level gives you that two-way ability to ask questions to clarify what someone might mean, and then to go back to your managers to give them the feedback. Next one, what are the best practice approach other organisations have implemented to recognise their staff? Going back to making it spontaneous and hopefully, on the spot, but things like handwritten cards, or if you know someone would value a gift card or a bottle of wine, sending those types of things out, especially during lockdown, has been really important. And also doing virtual fun events. Employees do see that as reward and recognition as well. We've done drag queen bingo, the amazing race. We do get to know you team sessions, and we do get really good feedback about those. The next question, how do you engage managers to participate in one-on-ones and skip level one-on-ones in a fairly conservative environment? Great question. I'd go back to showing those statistics around Australians and their plan to look for jobs and leave your current company, and then back to how doing these one-on-ones will really engage your employees. Then empower your employees. If their manager hasn't put a one-on-one in their calendar, empower them to put a weekly one-on-one in their manager's calendar. Just give them that empowerment, give them the template so that everyone is knowing what they're using. Can you please define the difference between culture fit and values fit? Absolutely. So culture fit is quite narrow, and it used to be just trying to see if someone would fit within your culture. Do they align to the type of culture you have? For example, with us, if they're too process driven and requiring too much kind of direction, they wouldn't have been a culture fit. Values fit is very different. We all have very different values as individuals. However, making sure that your company values align with a candidate is really important as to whether they're going to thrive in your company, or are they going to become one of those toxic employees that starts to negatively impact your organisation and culture. Next question. In addition to statistics like the ones you've shared, how do you approach or educate executives regarding remuneration engagement in a change-hesitant company? Again, I would just take them through those statistics and also highlighting the fact that people are wanting pay rises. And so and again, you have to be transparent with your employees. If you are suffering due to COVID and you can't give pay increases, think about other ways that you can engage your employees and be transparent with them as to why they're not getting pay increases. We can't give pay increases at the moment because we're not quite meeting budget. We are absolutely looking good as we start to come out of lockdown. So there'll be pay increases next year. In the interim, we're going to be doing this. And also be as honest as we don't want to make anyone redundant. If we spend a lot of money on pay increases, we may have to see redundancies. Is there any way of making Employment Hero customer surveys anonymous? Yes, that is absolutely on our roadmap. We have been asked by a lot of customers. Kelly's asking what a Glassdoor review is. Glassdoor is a online forum where pretty much every company is registered, and I can go on there as an employee and leave an anonymous Glassdoor review about the company. And you end up having a rating out of 5. So the Googles, the Atlassians of this world are all sitting at about a 4.5 or a 4.7. On Glassdoor, your CEO also receives a rating, which is fantastic because candidates go on there and they have a look and they kind of go, oh, Ben Thompson gets a 97% endorsement from his employees and this is anonymous. That's great. I want to work for Ben Thompson. So it's really good. And the other good thing, as I mentioned before about Glassdoor reviews, is that people do put the cons in there of what's not working well. So it gives you the opportunity to talk to leadership with a data point about what are some of the things you need to discuss that can be improved. Does Employment Hero have a 360 review option? That is something that is on the roadmap, absolutely, and we'll look at making it anonymous. John, there are incentives like unlimited leave and working from afar. In your experience, do these achieve the goals they intend? Absolutely. So I've worked for companies before where it's done paid time off instead of annual leave, and it's been unlimited, and employees don't abuse it at all. The same with working from afar, that example that I gave you of a couple of our employees doing their trip and working from the particular regions that they were visiting. Really, really positive experience. Love the team building event ideas. Oh, that's fantastic. The next one about being creative, something fun and keeping the mind working with something which builds the team and the culture. So a really great thing we've done is getting to know teams. We've had so many people on board virtually and the company's getting large. So we'll do a virtual get together where we'll focus on a team and I will throw out an MC questions to those team members and it ends up just being really fun. You get to know things about people that you wouldn't otherwise know. It breaks up the day and it makes people feel good. You can also invest in things like Drag Queen Bingo. I think she's about $200, really great event and family members can join that. So that's a really great thing to do on a Friday afternoon because kids can join in. The next one, do you think we will see a shift to a 4-day week? Susan, 4-day weeks are really hard for companies to manage. I do think some companies will do it. However, if you're a customer-facing company or a manufacturing company where you're having to actually produce goods, it would just be impossible to move to a 4-day week. You are seeing some companies at the moment give out an extra day on the weekend to help with lockdown. We gave out a lockdown leisure rules day for everyone to enjoy a day to themselves to make sure we were recognising that lockdown has been really tough mentally on a lot of people. So yes, some companies will move to a 4-day week, but I think there'll be smaller companies that aren't necessarily customer facing. And someone has pointed out there are Seek company reviews as well. Glassdoor is most certainly the most popular. And again, a good point of data for you to have for your leaders and your managers. So that's it for questions and we're almost bang on time. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been fantastic and hopefully we will see you again at our next webinar. Look out for all of the materials that will be sent to you. Thanks everyone. Have a fantastic Thursday.